Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. Today is Yom HaZikaron, the day that Israel remembers all its fallen soldiers, approximately 24,000 soldiers that fell in all of the battles of Israel, as well as the thousands who died in terrorist attacks. And then tonight at nightfall, Israel breaks out into celebration, celebrating its day of reestablishment in 1948. And something tragic is happening at the UN this year. For the first time in 75 years, the UN voted that on May 15th, which is the English date of the establishment of Israel, Nakba Day, which is how the Palestinians and the Arab world refers to Israel's Independence Day as the day of catastrophe, it was voted that it will be observed in the UN Great Assembly Hall, the only country in the world that the UN observes its birthday as a tragedy. And while the Arabs claim that they were driven out of their homes, in truth, the Arab world decided 7 armies to attack Israel, and they told their Muslim brothers and sisters in Israel, flee because we're going to wipe Israel off the map. And 7 countries attacked Israel in the war of 1948 after Israel accepted the partition plan and was ready to live in peace with the Arabs. And then Jews who lived in Arab lands like Iraq, Iran, Syria, Lebanon, and all over the Arab world, over 800,000 were driven out of the Muslim countries and had to return to Israel. And while the UN may say it's Nakba Day, we know it's the fulfillment of the great prophecy that the Jewish people will come home to the land of Israel. If you look in Isaiah chapter 60, the prophet says, Kumi Ori Kiva Orech, arise and shine, because your light has come. And the prophet Isaiah goes on to say, over 2,000 years ago, that there will be a great darkness upon the world. But then your light will begin to shine, and nations will flock to you, and your children will come back from distant lands, prophesizing the darkness, the period of the Holocaust, but then the light of the return to Eretz Yisrael after 2,000 years of praying to come back to the land of Israel. And then the prophet says, Mi ela ke av tu'ufena v'kayona el arbosehem, which means, who is it like you who comes like a cloud and like a dove to its nest? And Rabbi Israel Me'elau asks, what's the difference between the prophecy of the Jewish people returning to Israel like a cloud and like a dove? And he explains that a cloud moves in the sky because of the wind, as opposed to a dove, which is a magnanimous bird, which has fidelity and loyalty to its mate and to its family. And a dove returns to its nest out of love. And therefore, the prophet is predicting that on the one hand, Jews will come back to Israel like a cloud, driven by the winds of anti-Semitism and persecution, as many Jews did come to Palestine seeking refuge. But then the prophet says there'll be a second stage, where the Jewish people will return your children from afar, like a dove returns to its nest. The Jews will say, I want to go home. I want to go to my ancestral land. I want to be in the land of the patriarchs and the matriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. I want to live in the land where all the prophets of Israel and King David and all of the great Jewish leaders throughout Jewish history lived in biblical times. I want to go home to my nest, to my people. And that's the miracle in our generation. In 1948, there were 500,000 Jews living in Israel. Today, there's over 7 million Jews living in Israel. And there are more Jews in Israel than in the entire world combined. The majority of Jews live today in Israel. And all of this happened in 75 years. And as we celebrate the 75th year, it's no coincidence that Abraham, our forefather, was born in the year 1948 of creation. And at the age of 75, which was the year 2023 of creation, God told Abraham, Lech Lecha, go to the land that I will show you. And here we are, 3,800 years later, 2023 in the Gregorian calendar, and we are in the land of Israel, just as God had promised Abraham, your children will inherit this land of Israel for all of eternity, yet the fulfillment of another great promise. The word Lech Lecha was when Abraham was 75 years old. We as a Jewish people have to go lech lecha from strength to strength and continue to build Am Yisrael. As Rabbi Soloveitchik says, the word Am is from the root of the word Im, which means togetherness, oneness. We have to do it with unity, with one another, and with strength. Last week, on Yom HaShoah, when we remember the 6 million, at Yad Vashem, they light 6 torches by 6 Holocaust survivors. There was a man by the name of Ephraim Moll who was called upon to be the one to recite the Kel Mali prayer for the dead and for the 6 million. But tragically, he suffered a stroke the day before, was not able to say the Kel Mali on Yom HaShoah, and passed away last Thursday at the age of 85. Who is Ephraim Moll? As a child of 4 years old, his parents were sent to the concentration camps. He was hidden by a righteous Gentile woman by the name of Lucy Carter, who was later given an award at Yad Vashem for being a righteous Gentile, and a tree was planted for her in the garden. Ephraim Moll came to Israel as a young man after the war, and he got married and started a family, and then he got connected to Chabad, and he became observant, which he was not. And he passed away at the age of 85 with a family of over 50 members, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. This is an example of just one Jew who said, I want to go back to my nest. And in his documentary, he looks at his beautiful family with many, many children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And he says, this is the greatest revenge against Hitler. A little 4-year-old boy who was torn away from his parents, built a family with over 50, 60 members, and returned to his heritage in the land of Israel. This is the miracle of our generation. Let us continue, like Abraham, our journey until we merit the final and ultimate redemption. A nation will not lift sword against nation. We will beat our swords into plowshares. Man will learn to live in peace and will no longer have to have Yom HaZikarons for any more fallen soldiers or innocent civilians killed by acts of violence and terrorism. Have a meaningful Remembrance Day. Do a mitzvah in memory of the fallen soldiers to elevate their souls.